Hey guys, how are you today, fellow Zoids? Um, this upload's going to be a little bit different. About 2 days ago, I was trying to do a regular recording as a response to the previous video pertaining to authority. And I was already feeling pretty low energy and unmotivated, but since my time is limited to when I can't do things like this, I decided to do it anyway. Well, that was kind of a mistake because, I don't know, it depends on how you see it. The Anhedonia, abolition, all that good shit. Nice mixture of some kind of underlining heavy depression action, whatever. Point is, it started like hitting me really hard on like the third take of when I was trying to record. After which I wasn't able to do much of anything. But I pushed through it at the time because I was stubborn and decided to anyway because I wanted to get it done. Um, fucking hair. In any case, I want to show that recording, and it's a little cringe to me because I don't like seeing myself in a compromised state. Uh, I like to see myself be generally either tranquil, relaxed, indifferent, if even is better than what was kind of happening. Um, my numbness was showing. Some of my cold rage was kind of bubbling up. Gets worse, but I think it's a prime example of what it feels like at the moment. And I think it's educational or useful, especially for other schizoids, to see something like that. Because oftentimes, you talk about there's a lot, there's literature and everything else. You can have conversations about being schizoid and symptoms. You can have conversations about negative symptoms all you want. But usually, when those negative symptoms hit us especially hard, we isolate and we don't really want anybody to speak to us or see us that way. Thus, we generally mask often because of the response others have to seeing us when we're at our worst, I guess. But regardless of my personal apprehensions pertaining to showing such a thing, I think it's important. So, following this little introduction, I'm going to show you that video. If you think what I'm doing is useful, they say to do this stuff at the beginning, so I don't know, algorithm related, I have no idea. If you find that this sort of stuff I'm uploading useful, please Patreon, please PayPal, that kind of shit. I'm e-begging like a motherfucker, but whatever. Since when does a schizoid worry about being shameless? Okay, here it is. Call that. The reason I'm doing this is because I wanted to do a response a little bit to the or not a response, but an addendum or whatever you want to call it, an extension of the video I had put up yesterday, the little ramble I had done. It got kind of interrupted and shortened because baby woke up or whatever. But I wanted to kind of explain a little bit more what I meant about authority, what I meant about all that. So as far as authority goes, when I'm talking about proclaimed authority, I guess one of the best ways I can describe it would be through my own personal experiences. Here's a nice useless anecdote of myself, if it's of any use to anybody listening. So I grew up Catholic, right? So a lot of those things, as a Catholic, are driven into you early on. This is not going to be a rant on religion, but on authority or proclaimed authority a little bit. And well, I grew up being told about a deity and associated figures such as the Virgin Mary and Christ, his son, and all that. And all these figures were authorities, and these were authorities that I followed and believed in as a child because I was told by the true authorities of my life, my parents, that these things existed or that they should be important to me. Of course, as I got older, I began questioning many things about it. about the faith itself, and then I started seeing how, say my parents or people I knew would act in regards to, these things that they say they believed in, and saw a lot of the contradictions and hypocrisy. And when I asked the right question or the wrong questions, they wouldn't have the answers for me. So I couldn't find anything from them. I couldn't find anything from the people who were the authorities of my life as a young adult. So anything associated to religion, or at least Catholicism, began to crumble apart for me. And so then started making me question a lot of things that I believed were true in the face of things. When I feared this all-knowing God as a child watching over me, I started to question, why is it things that I did that weren't considered, correct, or thoughts that I had that were considered unclean? Why does such a proclaimed authority, proclaimed by the people that were my parents and aunts and uncles and everybody else, why if such a thing that I had no faith in, and such a lie, why couldn't that extend to everything else? And it does in a lot of ways. I'm just telling you my own experience. I got older, and of course in high school and stuff, I started questioning the authority of the teachers themselves, the institutions, public schooling, the methodology behind it, why I had to do any of the things they were telling me to do. As a schizoid, it was just a sense of everything felt like an intrusion on my autonomy. Everything felt like an intrusion on myself. All these thoughts I was being told to have, all these rules I was being told to follow, societal positions, perspectives that were not to be said aloud, in case of, offending or bothering someone or having them label you in some manner or another. Even when I was a teenager, before a lot of this cancel type bullshit exists now is going on. As a schizoid, you know what that's like when you have a lot of thoughts or feelings or whatever you want to call them, and the questions mostly, and those questions kind of make the cognitive dissonance that everyone seems to live with, or at least neurotypicals seem to live with on a daily basis. It makes them question their situation, and when that happens, they kind of go bananas sometimes. And they don't like that. But it's normal for you. It's normal for many of us schizoids, I feel, to constantly question the very reality around us, as we never attached ourselves to it very strongly. I'm probably going to get made fun of because I decided to play some shoegaze music in the background. Honestly, I don't even know what shoegaze is. I never got into it. So I'm like, oh, people make memes about it, so I'm just going to play some in the background to probably upset somebody. I thought it was going to sound worse. It's not really my kind of music, but fuck it, whatever. It's not half bad. What was I saying? Yeah, so growing up in that kind of environment and growing up and questioning everything every single day, starting questioning my own thoughts, my own motivations, everyone else's, why people do everything, reading and studying all that, and questioning, things on a more meta scale and going on from there and there. What happens is that you put yourself in a position which you realize that so much of what is being told to you on a daily basis is arbitrary and nonsense. You also realize as you get older that some of these things are unchangeable, or not changeable in any real, dynamic way. You can only change these things in really subtle ways. Maybe work towards stuff. You can change things within your life that kind of counteracts some of the proclaimed authority on reality, but you have to live within its context, right? You still have to live within its borders. It exceeds things like nationality or culture. There are some things that it just are, or you're told they are, about what human society is supposed to be and how it's supposed to function. I'm sorry if some of the things I'm saying just sound like delirium. Like I said, my symptoms are not doing great at the moment. But I guess for, somebody mentioned on my Patreon, one of my patrons said that it's fine because it's a part of what being schizoid, or the negative symptoms of being a schizoid in a world that doesn't seem to reflect anything about you, does to you after so many years of it being beaten down by it. I don't know. Anyway, authority. That's right. So it brings up the question of autonomy as well, in association to this idea of authority. And more on authority, though, I just want to clarify by giving examples, is that you, especially in this age of internet and internet news, I put a question on the poll pertaining to, do you find yourself being told by other people that something occurred and you find it to be sus, investigate slightly, and only discover that it's a complete fabrication? Yes, it happens to me all the time. And sometimes it's things I wish were true, and sometimes it's things I'm glad aren't true. Or sometimes I can confirm that that thing is true enough, right, to validate it as a at least some variation of truth. But there's just so many lies now. We're constantly being told lies about our environment. We're constantly being told lies about our place on Earth. We're constantly being told lies about our psychology, our method of being, as if it's singular, as if there's a specific box in which you can choose what seems like a good amount of variables, but you're limited still nonetheless to that particular box. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, pertaining to autonomy, this is the issue. Another person had brought up on server polls if love, because I had mentioned in the last video that love is the only thing that you should be willing to sacrifice, or not sacrifice, but diminish slightly your own autonomy for. I want to talk a little bit more about what that means. When I talk about that, I am referring to a partnership between usually two people. Whatever, I'm not going to get into all that kind of shit. But when you create the we, right? When you create the us, you're not sacrificing autonomy as much as you're sharing it. Because a combination of an effort on two people's part to share or restrict their autonomy to a specific degree as to create the us or the we, in order to satisfy the I of the individuals involved, it creates, or should create, a net benefit for both people involved. And if it doesn't, then obviously there's some kind of destabilization or issues with that relationship that need to be worked on. But if it does, then you create a situation in which you produce an us, a we, and you also produce the not side effect, but the side product known as love, if you will. And the feeling it comes with that is honestly greater than any feeling, or whatever you want to call it, than could ever be produced internally. That's one thing that I've definitely discovered, and one thing that's driven me toward attaining it and nurturing it as much as I can. it's something that could only happen in the external. That particular kind of love. Self-love is self-love, and for some people, including myself, is a even more difficult task. It's a much more difficult task. Right? Not self. I'm not the type that has a lot of self-hate, but I have a lot of self-indifference, a lot of self-apathy. But self-love that's a tough one. But the love that I can create externally for people, like my wife and my kids, that's precious. It's holy, even. It's something that I cannot manifest without their existence, thus making it intrinsically external. Without their existence, I cannot produce love for those people, right? Not true love. And a love that is shared. Infatuation, obsession, fixation, those are completely different situations. So she, my wife, restricts some of her I for the sake of we. And we both gain significantly from it. Honestly, if it weren't for that case, we'll be honest with you, I probably wouldn't be sitting here recording this right now. So yes, my restriction, I don't like the word though, or my sharing of my autonomy, let's just say sharing because that's a much more apt word, saved my life. I'm fairly sure. I know it's not saying much right now. I'm not in the best sports. I don't even want to look at the camera. It's weird. Keep looking down. Looking at the camera would be like looking at somebody, and I don't really feel like looking at anybody right now. But yes, for the person that asked the question about what does it feel like to be in a relationship, well, I can't tell you what it feels like for other people, but for me, it feels like it gives me something to keep chugging along for. Something external that makes me smile, makes me feel alive. Because right now, I don't feel alive. I don't know what I feel. But, in any case, in regards to authority and autonomy, that's kind of more or less what I meant, even though this is probably an incoherent mess at this point. Is that save your autonomy. Not for proclaimed authorities in your life. Not for political ones. Not for religious ones. Not for philosophical ones. Save your autonomy, your individuality, and share it only for that love that which I described. And if you haven't yet achieved this goal that took me a very long time to achieve, keep trying. Because you'll discover that the fear of losing a sense of autonomy is not so scary when you give it to somebody that makes you feel. I don't even have to say how, it just makes you feel. I think that's good enough. Just feeling. And before her, all I felt was anger and resentment. For my children, for my children. I don't think I could ever see myself as someone that could be loved. But the point is, now I do. Even if I don't look so good right now. You know how bad the days can be some days. That's the point, right? God, this song is terrible. What the fuck is this? I kind of regret choosing this shoegaze stuff now. This is far too upbeat for me right now. Hold on. Yeah, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is awful. What the fuck is this? No. No. No more. Oh no. Please. I can't do this. Just give me something else, please. Okay. Yes, give me that. Give me this. Thank you. Thank you, good sir. So yeah. I think that's all I have to really say. As far as examples, I'm trying to think of it. Like, I mean, what kind of examples could I fucking give you, right? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, okay, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Let's spell it out. Don't listen to people that want to take your sense of autonomy for their own purposes. I think it was Amy from Internet Kindness, another channel. She said it. She said that schizoids have a tendency to be so passive because of their indifference. And so, especially their indifference toward the self, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And so they tend to be controlled or tend to be manipulated by others, not because they're foolish or not because they're naive or in any capacity, but because they just don't give a fuck. And they just expect others to be manipulative and controlling. And just give in to the void. But don't. Just don't do it. It's the only thing that can keep you truly sane in this insane world. It's odd, too, because I don't really have to explain this to you guys, right? So I don't even know why I'm having a conversation on authority itself. Most of you probably question it on a consistent basis. Confirmation bias is a little difficult because you don't have a bias. Well, you have a bias, but not the same kind of bias that maybe other people have to confirm. Usually confirmation bias is fueled by a sense of identity. When you lack a lot of that, what exactly are you confirming? An intellectual bias, maybe? Whatever the case, combat it. Don't let your own mind decide which authorities you give your autonomy to. Question even that. Question even your own choices. Because there are people out there counting on those choices. I really shouldn't have done this. Whatever, you said to. You said it was fine. Like right now, I'm just so full of fucking anger right now. I just want to break this fucking screen in half. I want to break my fucking walls. I want to bust my fucking table. I want to tear this microphone out of its cord. I want to smash my PC. Whatever. Hope you had fun watching whatever the fuck this was. Anyway, after that fun little part, things got progressively worse mentally for me, and Um, like I felt just kind of vegetative a little bit. If you noticed, I wasn't making too much sense. Not that I always make sense at all, but I couldn't even keep my thoughts together. I sounded like I was drunk or something. Like you just can't think. You your mind just starts going blank in various areas, and you can't keep focus on what it is you're even attempting to do. And the only reason I was even able to keep track on remotely anything I was trying to speak on was because of my sheer tenacity. But as you can tell, I couldn't even look at the camera a lot of the time, and it didn't make for a good recording. Well, I don't usually look at the camera, but the point is I couldn't even keep my head up. So, yeah, that was pretty bad. Um, After which, once came to a little bit more, I got on the Discord and I was able to talk to some of my fellow schizoids on there. Cool, thanks, camera. Just lure me out. Fucking damn it. I was able to talk to some of my fellow schizoids on there, and I was able to. They were able to help me out, pull me out of it a little bit. But the rest of that day was pretty shot to shit, or evening, or whatever the fuck it was. I can't even remember. It was a few days ago. You know how it all blends together. Anyway, I don't think that whatever I was saying was of any use, probably to anyone, but during that recording in particular. But hopefully, just to those that know what it's like when you're trying to accomplish something that you need to get done, but that state hits you and how it becomes seemingly impossible. And that's why I had to stop the recording. Like I could have, normally I would have gone, I could do like 30, 40 minutes if my thoughts just kind of keep unfolding and evolving as I speak. But in the case of that particular evening, shit was not happening, like at all. So, whatever. Maybe you get something out of saying that, or seeing another schizoid go through it on a camera, I guess. But there isn't much to see. That's what's interesting to me. Like, if somebody else were to see that, they just think, oh, that guy's depressed. That guy's just having a bad day. And it sucks because when you see somebody or when you're experiencing it on the outside, it doesn't look like much. It looks like the person's like kind of incoherent and a little bit almost like they're really, really exhausted, like delirious exhausted. But as you guys know, that's not what it is. It's just this like waves and waves of numbness. And unlike Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb, there's not anything comfortable about it. Some days especially. And you're looking to feel a certain way. Like I wanted to be angry and sad and such, but I wanted to know why. I wanted to tap into those feelings, but I couldn't. They were just I just couldn't get to them. So I couldn't find catharsis or release. It's like being on a boat with seasickness, just back and forth and back and forth, and the vomit just won't come, and you need the vomit to just spew out of you, and the venom, but it just didn't want to, and that's what makes it so difficult. Is you can't just vomit. You're forced to keep swallowing it down as it comes up your throat. You could feel it, those feelings coming up your throat, and you just want to vomit them out, and you can't. You just taste the bile in the back of your tongue. That's how it feels. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to put out there for you today. Hope it was of some use.